Good morning, everybody. This is the Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024 JupyterLab Frontends and Accessibility meeting. I'm your host, Eric Gentry. It looks like we have a few items on the agenda today. I don't think there are any newcomers, so we'll just jump right in. It looks like Jason W. is first on the agenda.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Just wanted to start by asking about the status of 4.3.0. I know we had the release candidate come out. We did triage yesterday. We didn't see any issues that appear to be blockers. I also requested that we publicize a post on the discourse about testing that, but I'm not sure if that actually went out. I know there were some technical issues.
So there is an issue that is currently marked as a blocker. I think that's the one that to update to the Jupyter Notebook 3.0 final. And if you follow this issue, it leads to another comment that is about changing the typings before making that 3.0 final release. And I think this one blocks both Jupyter Collaboration and JupyterLab. So it makes sense to do this update of typings before a major release. So if there is a good time to do it, it's now. But it seems to be the issue that is preventing from going and do the final release. Yes, yeah. And I know Mike has some. Yeah, he's here in the call. Had some maybe ideas on how to do this. I don't know if Mike has time to work on that. Otherwise, maybe we should, some of us should try to help to make this happen.
So yeah, before changes that were done in this version, there was some typing, not perfect, but now with better performance for streaming, the typing is just any, which is, let's say, suboptimal. And I would consider that a bug, because we shouldn't have public APIs in TypeScript which expose any. That said, I'm not sure if it's a release blocker, because it feels to me that we could still patch that in a point release, in a bugfix release. I probably won't have time this week to work on this. I will have time to review a pull request if anyone would like to, and I might have time next week.
Okay, so if it's not that critical, would it be okay if we just postpone it to a minor release? Unless there is someone here who would really want to help and put out a PR.
I don't think we got any takers.
I tried, but no. Okay.
Anyone have anything else on this topic before we move on?
But if we decide to not do this typing change to Jupyter YDoc, then there is no blocker anymore, and we can release final. There was a question about releasing another RC otherwise in the meantime, but in that case, it's probably not necessary. We could just go with the final release directly, I think, unless someone would like to have a RC first, RC1.
So when would you plan to cut RC1 then?
I think I could do one maybe tomorrow. But then if we agree to not do this typing to fix that the typing issue for Jupyter YDoc, then maybe it's not necessary to do it, right? Because there won't be many changes between RC1 and final. But if people are more comfortable having an RC1, we can of course make one. It really depends. I mean, in terms of releases, it's not that much effort. Now we have space again on PyPI to publish new releases, so we're not blocked by this anymore, which is good.
Oh, did they increase the quota?
Yeah, it's done. Now we have 20 gigs. Yeah,
Excellent.
thanks to Christian who helped us with this. Yeah.
Nice. I mean, my thoughts about RCs is that if the final release candidate passes inspection, it just becomes the release. Like the only thing that changes is the number, right?
Yeah, that would be fine too. Yeah, but if the lifespan of the RC1 is only 1 day, I don't know if it's worth bothering, but we could also do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
oh,
the
go ahead.
magic pre-release version bumps don't often reveal stuff that actually breaks with compatibility windows. So because a lot of those pins are not written in such a way that they would reveal that there's a problem, or that, you know, installing a lab extension and doing JupyterLab extension list wouldn't print out that it's broken. So yeah, unless someone's hot on, I mean, like I'm doing something right now that's going to bring in the current beta. If there was an RC, I would bring that in, but you know, that's not going to find the packaging bugs that are the things that people get real bothered about.
So I'm taking a look at CondaForge, and I know this isn't the only way to get it, but RC0 has 27 downloads on CondaForge. For comparison, JupyterLab 425 has 301,000 downloads in the last roughly 2 months. So not a tremendous uptake on the RC.
Don't pay attention to the CondaForge thing. There's a lot of people doing real stuff that their whole organization or their whole IP address downloads a package exactly once and then it's used on
Yep.
mirrors. It's not, it has like that, those popularity games are not indicative of the impact it's actually having.
Oh, for sure. And Mike mentioned that a lot of people, that some people might use pip. I was trying to use check on PyPy, but I'm blanking on where to see download stats, if that's even a thing. Yeah, you're right. You know, in open source world, there's no clear indication of how many times it's been used, but in a relative sense, it's very, very low. Mike's got his hand up.
So regarding 4.3 and Mermaid, there has been a security vulnerability disclosure, which is not in Mermaid itself, but in its dependency, which is vendored. And we have a dependable update asking us to pump to 10.9.3.
I don't think you can solve that today. So DOM Purify is the thing at risk. I believe we already have a resolution for that, and are not using the vendor dist assets so that they are deduplicated on the already enormous thing. Let me check real quick, but I'm pretty sure we're not affected. But I ran into some issues that I still have not resolved about conflicts with TSDoc or TypeDoc or whatever the hell we use that cannot be resolved without a lot of work, or generating hundreds and hundreds of new warnings that it didn't generate before. So yeah, I'm sorry. I haven't gotten to that, and I didn't think it would be germane on the 4.3 lifetime, because I didn't get to it until after the feature freeze. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And I saw that you PR switched to 11.x as a target, And the only reason to include that at this stage was if we were to kill two birds with one stone and fix a security vulnerability. But
Yeah.
it is quite likely that we are not affected. So it's still, people will report that anyway.
Sure. Yeah, I know.
Multiple times.
Yeah, I know. My security scanner. Well, talk to your security scanner about it. Yeah, let's look in here real quick. So YarnLock is going to say, and I do not have the hottest. All right, DOM Purify. I mean, I think it's worth. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So we have exactly one version, which is DOM Purify 305. That's the only version that we ship.
Yep.
And let's look at the Mermaid, DOM Purify CVE. Yeah, okay. A copy of DOM Purify. Well, thanks. So what is the... They did a thing on develop. They use PNPM. Oh, God. How long will this take?
313.
313 is the version we need? Cool. All right. Well, let's... Yeah, okay. So then we do not use their vendored one. We use everything as the native ES modules. So if we add a resolution to the top level and punch it, it's not part of the public API. So bing, bang, boom.
Yeah, so we don't need to do anything because we have 316 and that was 313.
Oh, you're saying
and
that
that's actually visible in the changes proposed by the Pendabot. So yeah, no, it's hidden deep, so there will be reports. Anyways, yeah, thank you for checking that and discussing. I think we are good here.
So I mean, there's no reason not to bump it to the security related stuff. We should be bumping that every damn time and rebuilding YarnLock, right? But if it's already good, yeah. But what I wanted to avoid on the 10.9 is they added Kotek in the middle of that line.
Yeah.
And we didn't, who knows what's going to come in from that, like that actually had the other half of the vulnerability that they did the release for. So yeah, I wish those were dependency injection things that did not get shipped, but that's not how the world works. So so for example, on 11.0, they dropped whatever the heck was in there before, some crazy custom markdown thing, and now they're just using marked. But that created a conflict with our type doc, and yeah, that's the whole sad story there.
Okay,
I got
would having like a separate issue to update marked /type doc unblock you there?
Yeah, it's sitting on my computer. It's not done yet. And I guess the way to move that through would be to turn off all the linter warnings and then fix them on a case-by-case basis. There's some stuff that's done. There's a lot of stuff in Galata that's written in kind of a different hand than the rest of Lab that does not work with the modern type doc correctly. And there's a bunch of stuff. Yeah, it's just sorry, it's just deep, and I just have not been able to actually put it together.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. Just if you need help with getting that through, just let us know, and I will try to find time, or someone else might. In any case, that's 4.4 item, and we were discussing 4.3, so let's get back on track.
Yep. Looks like Jeremy's up next.
Oh, I did have one other thing I wanted to, I'm sorry, I did have one other thing I wanted to ask about that concerns RTC. It's not 4.3.0 related though. So there are a couple of pull requests that are open. One is ready for review and the other is marked as a draft. Sorry, 16.744 and 16 794. This is something that folks I work with have been asking about because they're hoping to deploy Jupyter collaboration more widely. And the RTC prefix stuff is causing a lot of like usability issues. So I posted a comment asking if 744, which is the one that's ready for review, is still being worked on. I'm not sure what the status is, especially with 430's release being very close.
I think the idea was to consider them for 4.4 instead,
Yep.
so that we have 4.3 out as soon as possible, and then we can potentially merge the two because they are not exclusive. So that both are useful, can be useful. But it would be better to have them in an alpha, so there is more time for testing. I think that's the idea.
Okay.
The split service manager one, it's not finished yet. I think but it could be, but then it was not like it was put a little bit on the side for now because it was not going to be in 4.3, but maybe we can consider it for 4.4. And the content providers, I think there were some comments also on, I think the API we would like to expose to extensions. And I also had some questions on how we could think about doing the same, but for other pieces of the service manager. So like, let's say you would like to bring more kernels or more ways to store settings. Like, should the API be consistent with the one we are trying to add to the content manager? So I don't know if it's ready to be merged, the one about content provider. Yeah.
I would say this is not ready for merge. I think that during the review I identified some improvements to the API design that could be done. But it's pretty close. And unfortunately, this is like a thing that ideally you would have a meeting to brainstorm or like in person meetup. This is one of these harder things that actually require multiple people to either work collaboratively through over extended period of time, or it's like a mini job for JupyterLab / notebook. So I would really want to have that in and release 4.4 early, because I do know that RTC prefix is causing a lot of issues, but just I think we need more eyes to keep looking for solutions to get that merged.
So both PRs could fix the issue with RTC prefix, but then that's pretty much the only point in common they have, I think, because then they address different issues. So the content provider is more about extending and allowing for additional content providers, like it says on the PR. But the service manager split is really more about like giving extension authors more power on what they can do on the service manager itself, and they will be really useful in the case of Jupyter Lite and a hybrid version of JupyterLab where you could have Jupyter Lite kernels and regular kernels together.
And I believe David also mentioned that the content providers could alleviate other issues in RTC related to like opening images and related things.
Okay. Thanks for the update, guys. That's all I had.
All right, Jeremy.
Yeah, just one more point. So I think maybe like a follow-up to this content provider PR would be, I don't know if it makes sense to, if we can have in-person, working group, maybe have a dedicated call about that, or make one of the JupyterLab cores more focused on that particular PR. And we explicitly ask people working on the RTC stack, for example, to try to join and then discuss this so that we can so if we want to get it in, then the earliest the better, the better, because even if we make changes in alpha release and then we break APIs, I think it's still fine in an alpha release, so we could iterate more easily, right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, cool. So my site had an item about notebook 7.3, which is going to follow JupyterLab 4.3. I made some progress. I also did a bit of triaging in the 7.3 milestone to move everything that is not really critical for the 7.3 release to a later milestone. But there is one I think really needs some fixing, is I think about caching of the static assets. I think it was an issue with some users for the previous versions, like 7.1 and 7.2. I think it's going to be a one again in 7.3 if we don't fix it. So I think I had a draft PR to fix it. Hopefully I can get it done on time. And for the other issues on the 7.3 milestone, if anyone wants to work on the notebook code base, please feel free. That would be super helpful. Otherwise, I think there will probably be a little delay between the lab 4.3 release and the notebook 7.3. And the thing I didn't mention here is that maybe we should also start doing like for the 4.2 release a blog post if someone is interested in also drafting a blog post with the user-facing changelog and do something similar to the previous blog post. I think it's always great to have a blog post out for minor releases. Yeah, that's all for me. I'm not sure we know what to do for the 4.3 release, but we could also discuss it after the recording at the end of the call.
Anybody have anything else here?
Looks like Mike is adding something in right now.
Mike, you can go ahead.
Okay, so just one update from me. I'm trying to troubleshoot and solve many of the issues that users are encountering when trying to scroll Notebook or navigate Notebook. These are not necessarily connected to the full windowing mode that we enabled by default in 4.2, but some of them only occur in that mode, some of them occur in the other mode. The problem in general is that windowing is tricky and scrolling is tricky, and we have two different code paths with scrolling used for both of them, because there is quite a lot of logic specific to like how do you scroll the notebook when you execute a cell, and there are two different behaviors depending on how you execute the cell. There is also navigation to specific cells, so that is turning out to be pretty difficult. I've shared some of the things that I found and will open a PR soon, but looking forward to 4.4 release, I wanted to bring up an issue which proposes to basically rewrite the entire implementation of full windowing mode using something which was not available back when it was initially implemented, which is content visibility and content intrinsic size features. So these are new CSS properties, and content visibility has only been widely available across major browsers since September. So my initial thinking was that this would be a 5.0 item because that would be rewriting the full windowing mode. But actually what we could do is add it in as a third or fourth, depending how you count, windowing mode using this thing. That the problem is, of course, that we get even more code to maintain, but this the hard part is delegated to the browser, which will now have to think about how to show cells and when to render them. And there are potentially many more benefits from using this approach, because like virtualized search, this is also possible using new features on the web. But that, so I'm linking the other issue about using hidden until found. This is not yet widely supported by the browsers. It's only supported in Chrome. But maybe we could have that in. And yeah, if anyone has comments, please do provide them. Otherwise, it's just an FYI announcement that maybe I might have some time to work on it.
I think adding it as an addition would be great, because at least we would be able to, from a user point of view, see if it helps already, and it would be easier to test. I was wondering, like you mentioned, like that being a 5.0 change, if that, in case it becomes the default, I guess. What kind of breaking changes do we expect in that case? Yeah.
That's not necessarily. Yeah, we've changed from defer to full in 4.2 after deferring that change from 4.0. So I think changing the default might not be the thing. Why I was thinking that it's 5.0 is because we would rewrite a lot of code, and that would likely change the JavaScript APIs. But if we are not rewriting like the windowed list model, but adding another model next to it, then there is no breaking changes at all. And I don't expect user experience to change in any way which would be called breaking. I expect only improvements. So my next point is a question. I don't know if we have many Jupyter AI developers, but I just wanted to understand what is the current feeling and direction when it comes to the context and inclusion of information when using Jupyter AI. By context, I mean, for example, the contents of the current notebook. And I'm asking that because I've heard that this is currently, like from the users, that this is very cumbersome to use, and compared to some other tools which enable AI, Jupyter AI just doesn't have enough context, doesn't know about the notebook, doesn't know about other files. And while you can include a selection of cells, you can include a file, this is not exactly intuitive right now. And for like inline completion, you have to have a custom provider to enable inclusion of those. So all is technically possible, just not very easy. And just wanted to understand if there were any discussions or thoughts about changing the defaults, or maybe exposing ability to add these things easily. Is that on the roadmap? Is the high on the roadmap?
So I don't know if I have a roadmap to share for you, but my team has been doing a lot of the work on Jupyter AI. I personally have not been lately, but I am following the discussions, including this issue 1037 that I just dropped in the chat, which somebody requested putting the entire notebook in context, which we avoided doing a couple of years ago when we started working on this project, because a lot of models had smaller context windows, and larger context was seen as a premium and potentially much more expensive option. But as time has gone on, first of all, you have local models, so cost is much less of a factor. And then even for the remotely hosted models, much larger contexts have become a lot more normal. So I think it might be wise to re-examine that. So that was the reasoning behind us not stuffing the context with lots and lots of information about like your entire chat history or the entire notebook or the entire contents of the directory that the notebook runs in. We made it a manual opt-in process. So if you wanted to include more information, you had to use learn, or you had to use additional info. And learn uses RAG, which stores information on a local vector database. So it doesn't send all the files as part of the context. It stores it locally, and then when you ask a question, it is going to pull in only what it thinks is relevant to your question and send that in. So I think it might be good to, whether in this issue or a larger issue or another issue that's more broad, have a discussion about this, like how much context should we be asking and how configurable should it be? Because I think the expectations for what people are looking for in an AI assistant are different now than they were a couple of years ago, and they're probably going to be different in a year or two's time. I mean, I still see announcements all the time of like IDEs that have AI assistants, and I can't help but notice that a lot of them look like Jupyter AI, but also they're going to do things that Jupyter AI doesn't. And so we should, learn from the best and innovate on top of that as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that the expectations changed. And as of today, I would probably say we should include, that's my personal opinion, we should include everything in the notebook, maybe removing pictures, because multimodal models are not that popular and pictures take up a lot of context when they are base 64 encoded.
Yeah.
But that will probably change in 1 or 2 years' time. But the other thing, actually, that issue perfectly reflects what I heard from a different user. Is that some of the features like slash commands are a bit cumbersome to use. Like I think the initial version of Jupyter AI had a button in the toolbar, but then that was removed, and I just didn't quite follow when that happened. But if we could, I don't know, bring some thinking and UX design maybe into the conversation, maybe that's what is needed there, because that came up repeatedly, like just using Jupyter AI to fix an error in a cell is not trivial. It's not as easy as it could be. So just mentioning this idea that maybe we could, I don't know, have a quick UI review.
Yeah, I mean, my team has between 1 and 2 people working on Jupyter AI at any given moment, and sometimes less than 1. So I think we've been getting some fantastic contributions from yourself, Mike, from other folks, some of whom are named Mike in the community, and putting together like a more cohesive vision for what we want it to look like in 25 and onward, I think would be really constructive. But I don't have anything to share with you right now, but yeah, I appreciate the heart reaction.
We have anything else on this issue? All right. Does anybody have anything else before we turn off the recording?
One quick plug, in a few weeks, we're going to be doing the November 2024 Jupyter community call. I think there's a HackMD doc that I made. We just published a blog post about this as well. So if you have something you want to present, you can add it to that HackMD. I'll also put it in our agenda here. we did this last December, most recently, and we had a good time. So if you know anybody who's been developing stuff in Jupyter, especially if they don't normally come to meetings like this, please invite them, do a 5-minute presentation, take some questions, share share your work with the community.
Thanks, Jason. All right, last call. Anybody? All right, brace yourselves. We're gonna end the recording.